editor's note to start this episode. So, I had a debate conversation with someone, and me and Patrick talked about it. However, we were going to do a part 2, but apparently he deleted the entire thing. And you're probably going to see why. The people that talked in this conversation did not perform well, nor did they make a whole lot of sense about defending their leftist beliefs. As always, there's going to be a complete denial of communism, but it's going to be the most severe cope spiral I've ever seen in my entire life. Just so the audience knows, it is a classic Marxist dialectical tactic to formulate reality into thesis, antithesis, synthesis, okay? Everything's a contradiction, they resolve that contradiction. So, when this person who hosted the space, Tunis, or DA, short for dialogue always, told me that blackness was the antithesis of whiteness, and he wasn't a communist, and was completely downplaying communism, it elicited a hyena reaction out of me. I messaged to Patrick on Telegram, bro, listen to this witch's cackle this drew out of me.
Oh, I asked if there was also blackness. So there's the study of whiteness, so then what's blackness?
Blackness would be the antithesis, everything that's the antithesis of what would be seen as whiteness.
Dude, you're fucking with me. You're fucking with me. So it's a reactionary identity. It's just in a reaction to whiteness. Without whiteness, is there blackness?
I'm kind of lost on like.
So what you're about to hear, by the grace of God, is the only surviving recording of the conversation that I had with these leftists. Enjoy. Welcome, comrades! I'm RD, short for rhetorically defective, here with my eerily flexible co-host Patrick, and we are Done With It, a podcast that's dedicated to the sea of communists that just don't get enough attention. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube to see the video of the podcast, link in the description. Well, this episode's going to be a little bit different.
It is, and I'm really looking forward to you no longer being able to beat the allegations of being gay after the audience hears your faggy ass laugh. But yeah, anyways, keep going. They don't know what I'm talking about, but they will.
Dude, you're fucking with me. Dude, you're fucking with me.
I had a conversation with a couple of people on the left, and this person is like, they watch Hassan, they watch Destiny, they're on the left somewhere, but I don't really know where they are on the left. And they'll post things, and I'll say egregiously hateful things to them, because I'm like, you are performatively stupid. There's no way you actually believe this. Well, I found out the long, hard way that he somehow believes in what he's saying. And I'm going to take all the time I need to work my way through this, okay?
I can't believe it. I mean, it's honestly kind of adorable, because at first you think, like, this is a person you would assume is just trolling, but he's just legitimately this... I don't even know. He's legitimately this silly of a person.
Here's what's unfortunate.
Everyone will hear.
Here's what's unfortunate. They were nice, okay? Now, we have 4 options with people. We have smart asshole, we have smart nice person, we have dumb nice person, and we have dumb asshole. Usually on the left, we have dumb asshole. Almost always on the left, the far left, the max left, the maximum left, we have dumb asshole. So unfortunately, these people were nice for the most part the whole time when they were talking to me. So I can't directly shit on them because they were being good faith somehow. They somehow believe in what they're saying. So what I'm going to do is say, if they were mean, this is what I would have said, because I had to have the patience of a fucking saint for this 2-hour conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming everyone will hear my bit as well. I did not have such patience. I was about to go into jujitsu, and so I had to come in and yell at them on behalf of Artie, because he wasn't allowed to, because he had to be there. Like, he was playing the long game, and I didn't have to do that. So I had my fun.
Okay, here we go.
I think I was being weird.
Just fair warning. Rhetorically, I can't remember the rest of his name is here, and so just
you can just call me RD. You can just call me RD. It's a lot easier.
RD. Artie's here, so I don't know where this is gonna go. So I hope it's civil, but it could turn into a hellscape. I don't know. Let's just see where this goes.
I'm smoking a cigar on my porch, so y'all are just keeping me company.
Cool. But yeah, it was just kind of weird today as I'm watching them like scream at each other and like, oh, this is why we don't trust Indians in MAGA. No matter how MAGA they are, you're still a foreigner. And it's like, he was born in Cincinnati. What are you talking about?
So what he's referencing is, I've been spending way less time on X and actually seeing these shallow bickering arguments. So I know, but he doesn't have a deep knowledge of what he's discussing typically. So I can, in general, understand what he's saying. And there's a lot of bickering going back and forth about something about Indians, Indian immigrants, something about that, and H-1 visas.
Elon and Vivek are talking about bringing in high-skilled immigrants for tech jobs, and they're basically kind of saying, well, these people are more high-skilled than the Americans that live here.
They are. That's true.
But I don't know.
Hold on.
So, not according to some people.
I'm going to clarify.
Be...
I'm going to do something that I haven't done on my channel or this podcast. I'm going to start clarifying my positions on these topics. It takes a little bit more time, but I'm in the mood to do it. So, through demoralizing our population, convincing them to hate the country, convincing them that the only thing they can do is resist the country, we have a sizable population under a capitalist system of people that do not want to work for the country. They want to indulge in hedonism through their demoralization and thinking that they shouldn't contribute.
Now there's a sizable portion of people on the right that are saying that there are Americans that are willing to work these jobs.
There are. And
it's like, right, instead of why not appeal to them as opposed to going outside of the country?
Well, we would have to do both concurrently. You can't just all of a sudden... we've seen there's been drops in males going to college, okay? We've seen the drops. Even the left has acknowledged this, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. It's going to take a little bit of time to rebuild, but they could definitely start appealing to them now. They should be hiring based on, MAGA or, America First principles. And then, I made a post about this. I've been saying on Twitter as well, trying to avoid this stupid fight. It's all very annoying. But I'm pro-immigration to an extent if they're useful to the country, but at the same time, I prefer to have our own people do it.
The double-edged sword of that is that we're taking the best people from these countries that aren't doing well. That's the double-edged sword.
You mean that it's bad for the other countries?
Yes, it's good for our country, but also it's not good for these other countries. But also, can they really thrive in these other countries so well? So it's a complex conversation. So that's why I don't subscribe to a side, because I feel like I understand. All areas of disagreement pretty well.
Yeah, no. The only thing that's been annoying me is the people that I would consider allies and friends, and people that I've hung out with. I see them they're acting very woke and taking they're taking a few racist accounts and then attributing that to everyone that is opposed to bringing in Indian immigrants for these tech jobs en masse, and they're basically just being they're oh, you're just racist. It's the same thing they do if you criticize Israel. They just say you hate Jews. Now if you criticize this, you're a racist against Indians.
Sure. and I feel like a lot of X accounts that, in the past year or two that I've really enjoyed, it's the same feeling that I felt with bands that I liked a lot, and then they were trying to get popular, and then I didn't want to listen to their music as much. So I understand why they're doing it, and I'm not saying they don't necessarily believe in what they're saying, because myself, I can believe in multiple things about something, but I can leverage one of those things extra to be in the culture war, to be in the in the back and forth.
Yeah, and the thing is that I think a lot of these accounts, because I know some of them, I think they do believe what there's they believe what. So they're right. There's main accounts, and then under each main account, right? Let's say an account with 400,000 followers. Underneath those accounts, you have accounts that are regularly retweeted by those accounts. Maybe they have 5 to 10,000 followers. Those 5 to 10,000 followers are just following lockstep in line with the larger accounts. And I don't think I don't know. I think they're almost blinded and they're not thinking critically at all and just following their leaders.
Which makes sense. Which is
It
a
does. It's
natural
just- it's
human
frustrating.
inclination, but I don't care to bother myself with it. Like, I don't have any like resentment or anything like that. There's things that I disagree with, but they're gonna open up that conversation a little bit before I come in. So let's go back to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was
Yeah,
pretty
but
fun.
you know, I mean, me and you both agree it was to be expected. I mean, we were just waiting for this, you know. And then Musk just poured. All Musk did was pour gasoline on the fire. You know, it's going to be interesting to watch these people turn on him. You know, because I've been posting that screenshot. You know, and this is something I've been talking with some people outside of Twitter. You know, and a lot of the people I work with, they like Musk because they think Musk is fighting for them, and I'm just like, bro, Musk is a billionaire. He ain't fighting for you. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah,
I love
because
that.
the left fights for you, right?
Yeah, and that's just that is literally just inherently like this guy can call himself whatever he wants, but that is just like inherently commie rhetoric.
You think these billionaires are fighting for you?
Yeah, it's so frustrating because
but just really quickly and to expound upon what you're saying, he's viewing it as class war, as these billionaires. I feel like a lot of other people are viewing it as private versus government. Private ownership versus government ownership. And they're like, yes, I would rather a billionaire in the private sector that's actually held accountable to money, to stocks, to something. Because you can't, voting doesn't happen with every single possible thing in government. And
I think I just think it's funny that these assholes talk about billionaires. They're just upset that Musk is just being out front and open with it. Meanwhile, the people that fund their politicians and make deals with their politicians just operate in the shadows, and their politicians
they're jealous that the right gets to be open because they're open to capitalism. 100%.
They're so jealous. They're so jealous.
Such a good point.
So jelly. It's hilarious.
Shit about you. He's going to pick your pocket clean is what he's going to do.
And whether or not he is
Baron.
fighting for them, I don't think Musk really understands. Like, there's so many different aspects to MAGA that clearly do not agree with each other, that the only thing that they unified for was against the radical left. But now that the radical left is...
What are some contradictory things with MAGA?
Yeah. So, like, now that the radical left is pretty much, like, in our own terms, like, either silenced or set aside or going to do their own thing, like,
no longer in power of the.
We're watching genuine war. Yeah, I don't think the radical left.
But what's contradictory coming from MAGA?
You said what's contradictory?
Yes.
Yeah, you were saying that MAGA is like really contradictory.
Well, I would say one of the things right now is the woke right controversy.
Yeah,
because all the people that are talking about woke right and the people that are being labeled as woke right, they're all MAGA. They're all Trump supporters.
They're all
So right now they're operating within a dialectic where if you're not on the left, then you're on the right and you're MAGA, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no people that are not very they're talking about like myself. I talk about politics, but I don't call my account conservative patriot and shit like that, right? I have a very general name, and I'm specifically focused on far left, maximum left things. But in his mind, it's like it's MAGA. This is what MAGA. It's like, where was this level of criticism during the BLM riots, where it was like, oh, they're just a movement. Oh, well, is there different factions within that movement? No, it's just this vague, amorphous movement, and then there's the organization, and they're completely different from each other. Meanwhile, MAGA has no organization, and then the left, as they do, defines what it is. They are in control of the definitions. They're all MAGA, and it's like, well, yeah, they can't be on your side, you psycho.
Yeah, and I think he says something, maybe he already said it. I swear to God, the only smart thing I heard him say was that essentially the right has all come together in order to defeat the left, and that there's more like kind of like disparate actors. There's more of an individual type of vibe with the right, which is kind of like that's individualism, classical liberalism, libertarianism, all MAGA. Like there's all these individuals and groups that have come together to defeat the left. It's the only smart thing this idiot says in this entire space. I'm pretty sure.
Hold on. he was nice the entire time. So what I'm going to do is go, and this guy's he has been shitty to me. If he was shitty, this is how I'm going to preface everything that I'm going to say. If he was shitty, I would call him an ignorant, inbred idiot. He sounds inbred. Now, if he was mean, he wasn't mean. But if he was mean, I would say that he sounds like a retarded Southerner that they would make fun of on the right. And he sounds like a failing Roomba in between saying things sometimes. He has this, like, honking squeak in between trying to think of his next update of what he's going to say.
Are you referring to Tunis or Black-Pilled Frank?
Black-Pilled Frank is who. Black-Pilled Frank is the guy who goes, yeah, and
Yeah.
And then Tunis is a black man that I still cannot put him on a political map. It's fascinating.
on his account, he says that he's like representative of the far left. So I don't know if that's sarcasm.
No. Adam's probably said something to him. He goes to Adam from Adam friended Adam and Sitch is a channel that's pretty centrist but still very mostly critical of the left, but also trashes the right. Pretty centrist.
Oh, okay.
And so he
okay.
interacts with them a lot, and that's how I found his account, and that's how I started talking to him. So if that was said to him, and no one talks to him, so he really took it to heart that someone probably said something to him and said he's on the far left. He's always alluding to what he is, but never quite defining it.
Interesting. We should have asked him what he is. Anyways.
I mean, we're casting with a broad brush here. I mean, there's a lot of people that are classical liberals that aren't necessarily fully aligned with MAGA, but I mean, we live in a two-party system, so they're going to support the non-left in response. It's not like everyone that supports MAGA is like a full-throated extremist.
Well, no. I don't think anybody's saying that they're full-fledged extremists, but I think the point.
So that was an intentional rhetorical move to say that not all of them are extreme, because they're not going to say it. So I feel a responsibility to say that they're not all extreme, to have him then say, no, I never said they're not all extreme. It's like, okay, well, without that clarification, you guys sound like they're all hive-minded and pretty extreme,
Yeah, and I remember I'm you can't see me right now, but I'm in the audience listening to this on this space, and I remember you doing that, and I was like, why is he doing this? Where is he going with that? And I knew you were doing it for a very specific purpose. I just couldn't place it in the moment.
Is that because Trump is a lot more like, yeah, I kind of agree with you, and yeah, I kind of agree with you, and he never really solidified
like
what side of the argument he's on between the two disagreements between like centrist right MAGA and MAGA and dark MAGA and all that stuff.
He's a politician. He has to appeal to a lot of different types of people within his base, just like the left does.
Sure,
so it's not like unique.
But it's a bit different with this one, and
100%. So the goal is to find it, because my criticism is specifically Marxism on the left and how they're ignoring it. So like their criticism of the right needs to be something that I cannot apply to the left. It has to be a unique criticism. If they're trying to address something that both sides do, and I hate both sidesing, but when I hear this criticism, I'm like, it sounds like he's a regular politician, and you're trying to make him sound extra bad, even though so far your criticism is he's trying to appeal to a base and he's trying to feel out what the base is. That's the most popular opinion, like what a politician does.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, there's certain things that, I mean, that's what's been interesting is that like Trump will say something and then his base will like push back on it, and there's like a little bit of a discussion online, and then
which they view as a fucking war. They don't understand seeing like a healthy disagreement without people trying to kill each other and get their jobs taken away. Their brains can't comprehend it.
Well, think about it, right? The left, it's what's his name? Curtis Yarvin, I think his name is.
Okay.
I think he came up with the concept of the cathedral, which is like basically the media and the universities. Like whatever message is sent from the cathedral, I call it the signal. Mm-hmm. Whatever message is sent is just taken as gospel. And if anyone in the left disagrees with it, they just basically get ignored. Like the Democrats just
the Young Turks
through.
are going through it now. It's funny that the last episode we did is pretty much leading directly into this linearly.
I just think it's funny that like I don't know, because everyone thinks that a lot of people think that the on the ground activists, like the queer Marxist activists that are like like in Antifa, a lot of the people think that they have some sort of power, but they don't. Like every message that they push is just a top down phenomenon that comes from various
It's the
nefarious
paramilitary wing of the
NGOs.
Democratic Party.
Yeah,
Because the Democrats don't really
don't-
dissociate, distance themselves
and they don't
from what they're
no,
doing.
but in that paramilitary group, these grassroots activists supposedly don't actually carry any weight. It's all a top-down phenomenon. Whereas with the right, it's more. I mean, it's definitely more grassroots now.
Well, on the
to an
left,
extent.
on the left, it's more hidden, and they're in because they go in the streets. The right doesn't go in the streets. They are liberal. The right is liberal, and they go, we are going to battle this in the marketplace of ideas as strongly as possible. So, I mean, it's using propaganda in a neutral term. Everyone's fighting for like the best messaging and the most popular message, which is like the marketplace of ideas on the right, on the quote unquote right, which is people that are not left. That's the right, is not left.
Yeah.
In terms of online
basically.
Popular discussion.
Correct. Yes.
Reason why it's a bit different is like, I guarantee you put Laura Loomer, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I would say probably Elon Musk and Vivek in a room together, and there's going to be a lot more hate than probably if you put a radical leftist in that room. I think it's just all agree.
Why do you suppose that? This just seems like wound up political rhetoric that you're saying right now. I mean, like I guess you'll say things, and I just don't see the substantiation for them.
So I bet you if these people got in a room, this would happen. As like normally, if I read that online, this is why I chew his ass out online. I'm just like, oh, I bet Trump is thinking this, or I bet this would happen if they were in a room. It's like you're imagining what's in people's heads.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, he is, and he's imagining what's not in their heads as well later on, which we'll see. But you don't understand. Like the people watching this right now, the people that are watching this episode have no idea who this individual is, and what he believes. What he's saying right now comes from nowhere. What he's saying has no meaning.
Patrick, I am lighting a candle with rose petals to the bed. To anyone listening to this right now, I am romancing them into what's going to happen.
But you're saying them like your opinions, like there's certain true and factual.
Well, if you check Laura Loomer's tweets regarding Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's actually calling for her to be arrested in a lot of them. So, like, this isn't just like, oh,
is that out of character for Laura Loomer?
No, but Laura Loomer is a major part of MAGA.
So I identified where the point of him saying that was to make it seem like, yeah, but what about this? And then I go, does she always do that? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, trying to give a fuck about what you're saying right now. So someone is doing what they always do. Yup. So what is different about this? If I didn't say that, one might think that, oh my God, Laura Loomer did that. She never does that. But I get a concession that like, oh yeah, she always does that. It's like, okay, she's very attention seeking, very bombastic. Yep.
So
I mean, there would still be a MAGA without Laura Loomer.
Sure, but just like there would still be a radical left without Hassan. But
a lot of these people.
Yeah.
I mean that's kind of a goofy statement. I mean, yeah, I mean, MAGA is going to exist without a lot of these people, but a lot of these people are major figures, and they do influence a lot of people.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, it's like if Breonna Greyjoy and Hassan represent.
So we're going to talk about a lot of these people are influencing a lot of people. Let's see if I'm ever allowed to bring up people on the maximum far left, communist sympathizing, socialist, anti-capitalist, whatever word that will fucking stick in a person's fucking head. I'm getting that already. So let's see if I'm going to be able to still like bring up any influence bring up influence, like, hey, they influence a lot of people. So we'll see if that is welcomed on the other side.
Present like the left,
I'm sure.
Then it's not a stretch to say someone who's larger than both of them, like Candace Owens or Laura Loomer, would represent MAGA or the right, if we're being consistent with the accusations.
Well, representing the left is a pretty concrete ideology, and representing MAGA is much more like amorphous. What is MAGA? How would you even define that? It's a movement.
No.
Like an organization.
I remember BLM did this same type of argument. And there is a solid set of requirements in order to even say
there's a solid set of requirements to be in MAGA. Who's ready to hear what those are that we're never going to hear?
You're part
I'm
of
sure
MAGA,
they'll be very
just like there was a
Like
solid
what?
federal plan.
Oh, okay,
Like-
hold on a second, DA. RD, I want to ask you a question before we go any
Deflection.
further.
Yes, sir.
What do you classify yourself as? Are you
A classical liberal,
okay? You're a
and
classical.
I'm very against the left.
Okay, so you don't consider yourself part of the new right or the dissident right?
What's the new right or dissonant right? If I make a comment about
So I'm going to be hyper pedantic. So sometimes people go, how do you define that? I'd rather ask, like, what is it in reality? Because I don't give a fuck about definitions at this point. And usually there's like, how do we define? They don't. What are we really talking about? Because it's never the definition. Because applying it's different than just like defining it in a clinical sense. So like, what are you manifesting in society when you are saying those things?
I've never met an individual like this Tunis guy in which definitions do not matter because words don't matter, definitions don't matter, nothing matters. I don't understand what this person. I mean, he's like a quintessential postmodernist. Everything is subjective.
Well,
Nothing matters.
when things become inconvenient to his position, he goes, "Well, it depends. Well, there's nuance. We'll hold on for it. We'll wait. Well, what is that?" But it doesn't like lead forward. It usually meanders.
supporting a level of deportation to illegal immigrants, does that make me the new right or dissonant right? I guess it's hard to know without knowing what you mean by that.
No, but I would say the new right or the dissident right would be something like shutting down all immigration in general. So
We shouldn't
that's
shut
what it-
down all immigration in general. You can ask me a couple of questions to see where I lay. So I don't think we should shut down all immigration. I actually just made a post either today or yesterday saying that Indian Americans are some of our best immigrants, not even just in terms of like being successful, but in my experience, they assimilate very well.
Sure. But if you look at some of the backlash to that, and if you were like, if any of us were bigger figures, you would be drug over the coals today for that. Because
Well,
there's
yeah,
a
it's
lot
on Twitter. It's
Well, no,
like the waffles and pancakes meme.
Sure, but Twitter was the same place where the really extreme leftist ideologies sit at too, before they left and went to Blue Sky after Elon Musk.
No, they're still on X. There's really small accounts that are claiming to be communists that get unbelievable engagement.
Hundreds of thousands of likes on like sometimes like 10,000
10K account.
Follower account.
Yup.
It makes no sense.
Took it over. But that's kind of what I'm saying is that they're now dealing with the problems that the left had to deal with our radicals, where it's now like, okay, we're in power. So now Trump has to try to still keep his radicals together while still trying to hold the people who just kind of came over because the left went a bit too far. And there's a serious divide between those two.
The difference between the radical left and the radical right, and I'm going to use the word radical ambivalently. So they like to say there's like an extremist right, but a radical left. And they use radical in a very positive term because they're fucking communists. And on the right, like, I'm not talking about alt-right or far-right. Let's do radical right. The radical right is obsessed with patriotism for the country and manifests in different ways, but they want the country to succeed. The radical left does not want the country to succeed. They want to deconstruct and demolish the country and rebuild it up in their own image. That is the difference between the radical. So even if someone is saying something uncouth on the right, but they actually do, even if they're misguided, their motivations are in the interest of the country. The left is not.
Some of them.
No, not the far right. Radical. So in terms of, so we're going to do an inverse right now. The radical left wants to destroy the country. The radical right wants to restore the country. That's how I'm using radical.
I mean, I guess, I've never heard radical right used.
I'm making it up because that's what they do. You have to make up shit against their made up shit. Sounds pretty good so far, though. We're going to keep rolling with it. I'm going to
embrace the postmodernism.
Bash my face through a fucking wall. Here we go.
That's fair.
I think they're just hashing it out. When you said there's a serious divide, I mean, they're not nearly as like trying to get each other fired like the left was with their own base and like trying to, I don't know, the left seems just way more vicious in terms of these disagreements. You're seeing like these disagreements back and forth, but I view them as just that, just passionate disagreements. Well, deciding what direction it should go in.
It depends on what you mean, because a good example of this is I would kind of point again to Candace Owens or what's her name, Brett
Cooper.
Brett Cooper. Like if you look at the responses to Brett Cooper leaving, it's the conspiracy theories, the conspiracy stuff that's kicking in that makes it a bit more.
What conspiracy stuff? That she actually is Ben Shapiro? Because I support that conspiracy theory. They look identical.
Well, no, but you know how like the last few people that have even left from the Daily Wire have left from the Jewish Wire.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
So now the Daily Wire is now the Jewish Wire, and people are...
Now, the right is split on Jews, and the left is split on Jews, so I'm still searching for a criticism of the right that does not immediately apply to the left.
Actively working to collapse the Daily Wire. So
well, I mean, neither the left nor the right can really get their minds made up about the Jews. I don't think anyone can.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I was giving an example of a backlash that we're starting to see now that the right has power. Like, so it's not just like, oh, hey, we have disagreements. Like, there's active work to shatter the Daily Wire. There's active work to shatter, the Heritage Foundation. There's active work against a lot of these groups, even Turning Point.
What do you mean active work? Like,
just active work it's the leftism
it's
infecting
propaganda.
his brain.
It's propaganda.
Yeah.
Like what are you actually talking? He's in a hyper reality. He's talking about rhetoric.
And whenever these people say work, it's literally just leftism infecting his brain. I love listening to it. It's hilarious.
Stuff online like that's nothing compared to what the left does when they go to like cancel or shut something down.
Well, no, because both I can't always be sure on this guy. I gotta look it up, but I think both Candace Owens and Steven Crowder have open cases against the Daily Wire. So they're
open cases
of like
in terms of
what are you
trying to get out of their some of it's trying to get out of their NDA, some of it is they're claiming that there's like bad business practices inside of it, and others is
quick point of clarification. Candace Owens may or may not be trying to get out of her contract, and Steven Crowder did not open a case against the Daily Wire. He recorded an audio file of Jeremy Boring saying something, so he doesn't know what he's talking about, and this conversation is a deflection right now from any sort of pointless, meaningful criticism.
I don't think Steven Crowder opened a case against the Daily Wire. He did something really shady and recorded Jeremy Boring and didn't let him know, and then tried to pivot for his own personal gain. But I don't think there was a case opened up.
I thought
and if Candace Owens is, and then she's go ahead.
No, I don't. I think RD's right on this.
Yeah.
DA. I don't think Crowder has a case open, but he did record Boring with the intent,
unethical.
Yeah, with the explicit intent on making Daily Wire look bad.
Let's
face it.
This guy sounds like he reads the New York Times and fills out the crossword puzzle every day, is what Black Belt Frank is giving vibes off of. He sounds like a typical
He's an old soul. Here's the thing is that, like, shit libs morphed with the internet, right? So instead of just seeing something in the newspaper and repeating it, he's seeing shit online and fucking repeating it. And if he wasn't nice, what I would say, if he was being mean, what I would say is he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, and he feels cool talking to a fucking black guy, even though I want to bring up the picture, even though we had disagreement online, and he was like, just say the N-word, but he said the full N-word with the ER at the end, and I didn't see it. He's like, you can say it on X, just say it, like thinking I'm super racist, and he said like the full N-word, and I didn't see it because X banned it. Clearly you can't just do that. No, you don't know what you're talking about, and I didn't see it, and you're defending this black guy while N-bombing me for fucking no reason.
I know, and X. If you ever even the faggot, if you just spell it out, it limits who can see it. Nobody can see those posts.
You can say it in a space. You can say all these words in a space, no problem. Just not in print.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I heard. I don't know that for a fact.
That's the only reason he did it.
And I'll check it after this conversation. But I swear, he tried to claim there was some violation of the agreement that they were working through.
But to serve your greater point, and then Candace Owens is possibly opening up a case to get out of her contract.
Yeah. So it's
Well, which is actually funny if she's trying to get out of her contact for an NDA, because for this whole crusade that Steven Crowder went on, he throws around NDAs like a motherfucker.
But do you see what I'm saying? I mean, yes, it's not going to be 1-to-1. Obviously, they're not doing the you said something I don't like, so I'm trying to get you fired, which I think that was talked about a lot more than it actually happened. But there is a
well, that's not her trying, like, but that's not like trying to shut down. I don't know. There's not a lot of mainstream support for the Jew hating or Jew critical right.
I don't know what you mean by mainstream, and that because I
okay, that's fair.
this is kind of a hard thing to point to, because if I look at like some of the largest conservative names on the platform,
oh my god,
then that's not true. But if
what
just no, what the fuck is he talking about? Wait, hold on. I'm really looking forward to seeing who he thinks is a mainstream voice and representative of the right. I'm sure it'll make sense and it won't be fucking retarded.
Now,
I'm sure.
You want to know right now, but you know when you're watching a movie and you know it's gonna fucking end shitty, but you're like, well, I'm already this far in. Let's see the shitty ending. Well, get ready to have that feeling in your gut.
Fucking
those aren't considered mainstream, because mainstream is ABC, only ABC.
So who are you referring to? Some of the biggest names, like who?
I can't remember the other guy's name, but I know Candace is a good example of that. I keep leaning on her because she's one of the biggest names. But everybody connect.
She is heavily disagreed with in the public sphere, okay?
Yes.
Let's not act like she's being agreed with wholesale. She's saying that, and she's being heavily criticized. And in the free marketplace of ideas, it's being hashed out in the comments and with other larger accounts.
And it's also hilarious too, because the like grapers and the people that are obsessed with like Jews is all they talk about is Jews. They actually hate Candace because Candace buys into the conspiracy theory that they're essentially the people that quote unquote control the world, the globalists, are Kabbalists who are essentially Satanists masquerading as Jews. Whereas like the people that are obsessed with Jews, they're like, no, just say Jews. So even those people, it's just the man is just so uninformed.
There's a lack of depth.
There's nothing, and I love the next person he says, because there's just a popular name that's just hanging out there like a dingleberry on the bottom of your. It's right there, and he won't grab it. Just press play.
To her, including Jake Shields.
Yeah. Oh my god,
Jake Shields.
Okay, Jake Shields. Yep.
Oh, what the heck is the guy's name that he's going really hard on Indians today.
But he's just asking questions.
Sure.
We're starting out nice.
I thought we had freedom of speech. The man just asking questions, right?
It's arming.
I mean,
how many? Was it 6 million? I'm just asking questions.
Well, all of this is based in just asking questions until it's not. But but no, what I mean is like a lot of these are major figures on the right, but they kind of.
Anyway, back to not naming them.
How is it? Was he thinking Nick Fuentes?
No, he was thinking. So he says it later on. He said that he said Elijah Schaffer, but he never said Elijah Schaffer right now, but he was thinking it. And later on, he said Elijah Schaffer.
Elijah Schaffer is not a big voice on the right. Nobody fucking pays attention to Elijah Schaffer. So who's a big voice on the right?
You want to know who I'd say? Fucking, I don't know, Vivek, Elon Musk.
Yeah, but if you want to do big voice on the right, online, on discourse, I don't. Right is negotiable, but. I mean, at least throw Nick Fuentes out there. You're going to say Elijah Schaffer and you're going to say Jake Shields, but not Nick Fuentes, someone that's actually able to mobilize a bunch of shitheads behind him and has thousands of it makes,
no. So you
makes no sense.
It does. It does make sense.
Well, I mean, if you know who this person is, then it makes sense.
So they do not understand how to interpret cultural popularity. Okay. So what we'll see later on is they just see followers on X, and that is as deep as their analysis goes. And they don't look at engagement. They don't look at other forms of media. There's YouTubers with 1 million subscribers on YouTube that have like 50,000 followers on X. Like you need to look at these people cross-platform and do 5 minutes of research to really gauge what their impact is in society.
Yes, and you also have to factor in whether it's a leftist or a shit lib or like any of these people on the left, right? Right left of center.
Mhm.
None of them really truly pay attention to conservative media. None of them truly ever venture into conservative circles. They're all in their own bubble. So they are incapable of accurately describing anything on the right because they have no idea. They cannot, like it's always said, right? Like people on the right will consume leftist and Democrat media because it's everywhere, and they could articulate the left's point, whereas the left can never articulate the right's point. So that's what we're seeing here too.
Yes.
It's completely ignorant.
Yes, but also it's honestly a false equivalency to compare the left and the right at this point in terms of their behavior, because on the right, it's not left. The left is left. They're called leftists. They call themselves leftists. No one fucking calls themselves a rightist, but they treat them like they are rightists to themselves. They're projecting.
Yeah. They refer to they'll say we're on the right, but yeah, you're correct. They don't actually say rightists,
right? So
although I do see leftists try to say rightists. They try to make it happen, and they couldn't do it. It's funny.
Yeah, it's people that think you're such abhorrent people that they don't know why you're that way, and this is what we're hoping to explain over time. But then people just go to the not you party is what the right is, and they're figuring out what to do, and they're working it out like liberals. And I know that's a dirty word in general. There's no positive association to it. The right doesn't like it. The left doesn't like it. But it's a pretty, it's a politically defensive position.
It's also imagine being Kyle Kulinski, imagine being bought, especially Kyle Kulinski, because Kulinski's really making a push for everything, and I feel like he's basically.
Oh my God, Cenk Uygur said to Francesca Fiorentini that like one of the shows he likes on the left is Secular Talk.
Of course.
Having no idea that he's plotting against Cenk Uygur.
Yeah, he's so stupid. Oh my God. But no, Kyle Kulinski though he's like positioning himself as a synthesis between like the new push for the new old push for class-based warfare as opposed to just the identity politics, but he's still harping on trans people, still harping on the identity groups. But imagine he must be so salty that he just screams into the void and no Democrat politicians pay attention to them. Meanwhile, you have you have influential conservative influencers on Twitter actually having conversations with Elon Musk, who has direct links to Donald Trump. He must be he actually is pissed about that. He's bitched about it a lot. It's hilarious.
Yeah, but he also cries about having to go on Joe Rogan's podcast because he doesn't like to leave his house. Like, isn't that a fucking incel? Like, you fucking can't leave your fucking house, you loser. You have over 1 million subscribers, and you're like, I don't want to leave my house. I want to be at home.
I mean, how is he going to get pegged by Crystal if he's on the road, you know?
So I didn't look at her when you first said she had masculine features.
She looks like a trans person.
And I've looked at her since then, and she looks like fucking Olmec from Legends of the Hidden Temple. She has a very prominent stone features that Aztecs really would have appreciated.
To live in that world of like they're major figures on the right who they write multiple posts of how they're destroying the mainstream and how they're becoming the mainstream. Until people start looking at them, and then suddenly it's like, no, I'm just a guy in my room, you know. So I don't really know how to.
Okay, and I mean, well, so to support your point, there is a convergence of legacy media is dying, and online media is definitely starting to take over. Like I think Hassan Piker had like 300,000 concurrent viewers during his election coverage, which did better than a lot of legacy media. So I guess mainstream, I would have to find a different clarifying word, right?
Yeah.
Well, because I mean, usually when we're talking about like extremism on either side, we try to go to what is.
So instead of thinking of another word, the only point of a word is to describe a concept. So instead of trying to find a word, I go right into the thing I'm describing, which is why I'm reactionary in terms of being anti-communist, but I'm also reactive. Like I can't do this podcast by myself. I need some sort of feedback to happen. And then I need to be able, like, that jogs my memory. Like, if someone just asks you a general question about something, it's hard to kind of explain what it is politically. But if it's in the context of a conversation, then it pours out of you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I don't understand. Like, I can't, the streamers that just do this every day by themselves. I mean, you watch it, it's mind-numbingly nauseating and boring. Like, I don't understand how they do it. I don't understand how anybody watches it regularly. I hate watch it so I can make fun of them. But.
Is like the mainstream used to mean most popular, but now the lines are kind of getting blurred, and so it's a lot more fractured than it used to be. It's less uniform,
and that's why it's hard for me to answer. But I would say this. I'm noticing a lot of people on the left who are like considerably smaller accounts are pushed as like major figures on the left, where there's right wingers with accounts like 3, 4, 5 times their size, but they're not seen as like major accounts on the right whenever they do something questionable. And that I don't know how to I don't know how to respond to that when a lot of right wingers ask me like, well, give me a major figure, because it's kind of that
yeah, that wasn't a gotcha. I was asking in good faith to try and gain like understand, because we're obviously not seeing the same media online necessarily, right? Yeah. we probably look at different media, so it's going to be
I mean, Elon
a different outcome. Yeah.
I don't know about your Twitter, but my Twitter is like Elon Musk basically has me somehow seeing every single person that hates every race on the planet. So I don't know if that's
Twitter. What do you mean every race on the planet? It's probably just black people.
No. I'm like today. Like I literally had to stop my Twitter for about an hour and a half because it was just, as I'm scrolling down, it's just Indians live in shithole countries and Indians
do live in shithole countries. They have a caste system, and we get the best Indians. That's why they're named Patel. They have a caste system. Most of the country is in poverty and is a shithole country. Now, if there's been a lot of pressure on anti-whiteness in the country, which we'll get to, this is the natural reaction that, like, fuck Indian people, take care of our own. Right now we're trying to develop a national identity, okay? And it's going to be messy. And there's going to be things that people say about Indian people, and I've already stated how I feel about it, but I'm not bothered. I understand why they would have that reaction toward Indian immigrants on the fucking psyop that's been going on in the country in the past decade. Like, I have empathy for people that are anti-left, that are saying racist and ignorant stuff, because it's like, you're trying to figure it out. You want your own country. Other people have their own country. You want your own country. You don't know what it means to have your own country, but you're trying to figure it out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and plus it's hard, like, for, I guess I don't want to say normies, or like just regular people, right, that see everything that's going on in the country. They're not spending time in Twitter spaces or X spaces studying philosophy and like conflict theory, right, and understanding like why, like they're not understanding how like the quote unquote racist reaction, like they don't understand, like the left wants that, and even if they don't get that, they will still make it appear as if it is racist. So it almost doesn't even matter what you do, but like they're not thinking about, like, they're just literally just like, man, I don't know, it really seems like they hate us. They, as in the power structure, they hate us and they want us dead. And now all of a sudden they're talking about bringing Indian immigrants in. I don't understand, why aren't we taking care of our own people? It's just like normal. I mean, there's a lot of shithead accounts on Twitter, but it's, a lot of people are just thinking that, and they're just normal people that are just reacting genuinely.
Well, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It really does feel like, imagine the year is like, I don't know, 1658, and you go, wait a minute, I think this is a pyramid scheme. And you're one of, like, the first people to try to describe a pyramid scheme to people, and they're like, what are you fucking talking about? A guy at the top has an idea, and he spreads that idea to me, and I get a little bit the more I pass it on to other people. And you're trying to, like, describe this foreign concept that's very apparent.
Correct. I mean, it's apparent to the point where it makes me want to smash my head through a fucking wall.
Or eating their own crap.
Do you think you're possibly oversimplifying what you're seeing? And when you're describing what you're seeing, it's from very small accounts in the replies below it?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, the right's done this with the left for years, singling out the very abhorrent and crazy opinions coming from the left in smaller echelons.
I'm not saying that this is coming from the right. I'm saying my algorithm is showing this every time I open it. And that's why I'm saying, like, I can't even quantify, or I can't even explain if that's like a majority of it, or if it's just my Twitter algorithm is just like, oh man, he's online, let's show him every single hateful account possible, because apparently that's what I need to see.
I know, but when you say hateful account, like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
To be fair, DA, Musk has set the algorithm up where if you even slightly engage with one of these accounts, your feed's going to get flooded with it. But I'm the same way. I think my Twitter feed and your Twitter feed are probably pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is funny because accounts that I argue with, like more left-leaning accounts, I'll get more left because I engage with it.
Yeah.
So I'll get actually like a lot of like left content.
Yeah, that's what
which is actually good. If you argue, you're seeing the other side, possibly a crazier version of the other side, but still the other side nonetheless.
Okay, hey RD, I got to ask you a question because you said you're a classical liberal that doesn't like the left. Can you?
I'm very anti-left. Yeah.
Okay, can you in like maybe a 5-minute?
I love this. He's telling me to like. In their mind, one person says a bunch of shit that you don't listen to, and then you say a bunch of shit that you don't listen to. Like, why would I take five? He's acting like I have rhetoric. I don't. I would need to have a conversation. So sit here for 5 minutes and explain. It's like, well, there's no point in me explaining something to you. I'll explain something to you for 5 minutes. Once I understand that we're on the same page. I'm not going to start a conversation explaining something for 5 minutes when I already know that I'm losing you 5 seconds in.
He just wants to hear your politician's stump speech, is what he wants to hear.
Tell me what about the left you don't like?
I think, so the left, things that are left of liberalism seem to be illiberal. They seem to lead towards, like, someone's a Democrat, then they're a social democrat. There's a pipeline, then a democratic socialist. Then once you're a democratic socialist, you're like, oh, I'm a socialist, so just go myself a socialist. And then we have commies. And there seems to be, like, do you think Hassan Piker is a communist?
No.
I don't particularly like Hassan.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
We've already done podcast episodes on this. Hassan Piker had a show called Agitprop on the Young Turks. Agitprop from Vladimir Lenin is agitated propaganda. It's communist propaganda. Vladimir Lenin, the people that are communists right now in the country, the vast majority of them call themselves Marxist Leninists.
Right.
It's a Lenin so Marx is the father, Lenin's the fucking son of communism.
Yes. Now, what's funny is that later on, you'll hear a dashingly handsome sounding individual come in and start talking about Hassan. And he's definitely not gay. Talking about Hassan. And what's funny is that this person may or may not say that Hassan had that show called Agitprop. I was hoping that they would go to the Wikipedia page, because if you look up Agitprop, it said it was initially associated with Lenin and the USSR, but then later on was used by other political movements. So I was hoping that they would use that to be like, well, how do you know that he's using it in the communist way?
Wait a minute. Are you surprised that you made a better argument than they did?
You can always
let's hear what the argument is. Let's hear what the argument is.
Okay.
I wouldn't call him a communist. I definitely would think he's on the left-hand side, the left side of a social democrat.
Well, it's kind of weird because we get into these terms of like, are we doing communists in the way of like communist, Marxist, and socialist are all synonymous? Or are we kind of separating? Because if we're asking if he's a communist, then no. But if he's like that commie,
okay. So why don't you? Because I mean, why don't you think he's a communist?
He's missing.
What would you see from him to go? He's a communist.
He would have to genuinely wish for a stateless country.
He would have to genuinely wish for it. Does he do it on his birthday when he blows out the candles? This is what if he wasn't nice, he is nice. But if he wasn't nice, I would go, he genuinely wishes for it. Do you have this kind of criticism on the right before you start to full throat hating them? Well, no. Does a person on the right have to genuinely wish to be a Nazi in order to consider them a fucking Nazi, dude? The fucking bar is so uneven on both sides. That's why you can't compare the left and the right. It's a false equivalency every time. He has to genuinely wish for it, and then that's how you know. Very factual, right?
Yeah. Yes, obviously. Well, I can't wait. I cannot wait for this next part. I'm so excited.
Like stateless, no money, everything's pretty much town square. Everyone works towards a common goal in the entire state of the country.
He would have to like outwardly and obviously say that. But I feel like on the right, you have a much lower bar for levying political accusations against them. Where on the right, you're like, oh, but I can tell what he really means. This is what he really means when he says this, this, and this. But it seems like you don't quite do that with the left.
Actually, I like when you asked that, I was wondering if you're going to lean towards socialist, because I would say yes, he's definitely a socialist, but he's not a communist.
I was fucking.
So do you know that? Do you know what the goal of socialism is?
I mean, state-owned, releasing all property rights.
Okay. It's not communism. It's just that socialism is releasing all property rights to the government so the government owns all of the property. I don't see how that's communist at all because there's still borders in the country.
And that's why I mean that's why I enjoy the you know, you always say that what is it? Is it fascists or fascists are honest communists? Or Nazis are
fascists, Nazis, whatever you want to call the far right,
at
are
least,
just honest communists.
Because the tankies follow Marx's stuff to a T. So the tankies will fully admit that it is about establishing like a dictatorship that is supposed to lead to that. Like the tankies understand the theory, whereas this guy has more of a shitlib approach to it, or like a woke approach to it. It doesn't actually like really understand what the socialist communist program is. He has no clue. At least that's how it appears.
Yeah.
Kind of limited.
It's to lead to communism. Like through Marxism, the whole purpose of socialism is to lead to communism. It's not like you stop at socialism.
Arguable, but I mean that's kind of going into whose ideology are you following, whose viewpoint of it.
Marxists. No. It comes from one guy.
No. What I'm saying is, that's not all the way true, depending on which interpretation of Marx and who's like Forgo.
Do you really think he was saying Foucault?
Who's Forgo? You're more well read up on.
It has to be Foucault.
And dude, listen to my reaction.
Grandfather of queer theory.
I
Foucault.
bit my lips off and had to tape them back on because I had to not say anything.
Yeah, I know. I saw your face. It's horrific.
After he followed Marx, he's not leaning anywhere near towards heading towards communism. He's more towards like
who?
Forgo.
So his interpretation following Marx is more towards holding socialism and keeping socialism there. But then there's other people who want to lean more towards communism. So, and we're getting into like the weeds of that, which kind of
you're really deep into it. You're getting really deep into it, Tunis.
No, we don't have to get into the weeds, but can I explain to you my frustration?
Sure.
At this point, I think I'm frustrated, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just be open and vulnerable for a second, and go. This is what. I didn't say pisses me off, but I'm like, you want to know what's a little frustrating? Let's explore this.
As calmly as humanly possible. Okay. Do you know who Vladimir Lenin was?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Vladimir Lenin, would you say he was a communist?
Absolutely not.
Now, it's hard to prepare. I don't prepare for a debate. I don't like the whole debate sphere and stuff like that.
How can you prepare for this?
He took the wind out of my sails. So the son of communism isn't a communist. So I'm going to try and process that.
Lenin is so critical to communism and Marxism that it's Marxism-Leninism. But he's not a communist, though. He's not a communist.
I mean, here's how critical Lenin is. He contributed to critical theory. It's not like it's just Marx. It's elements of Leninism as well.
Vladimir Lenin was not a communist.
Nope. Huh. In no way, shape, or form was he a communist.
Oh.
He was a liar.
Did he? So Vladimir Lenin called himself a communist.
Yep.
But he was lying. He wasn't a communist.
Yep.
According to you.
According to his actions.
According to his actions.
Yes.
What were his? Okay, so how is he not? Was he pursuing communism?
No. Because he never.
He also wasn't pursuing communism. Okay.
He never wanted to release power to enter a stateless, formless government. He claimed he was a communist to keep to keep his hold on the manufacturing sector and the labor market and the labor side of it. But he never had any intention of releasing power if he even reached anywhere close to his utopia. So no, he was by no means a communist, no matter how many times he said he was one.
Interesting. So no matter how many people call him a communist, including himself, and historically people call him a communist, and people act according to the words that he's written, like the American Communist Party are Marxist-Leninists.
Yep.
So there's a political party built upon being communist, reading directly his words, and how it is 100% definitely communist.
So I'm thinking, like, well, let's just try to describe reality right now. Like, there's communist parties built upon Marxist-Leninism, and they're lying, they're not... So, okay, let's take that in.
Communism.
Yep.
You're just going to go, nah.
Absolutely not. And you want to know why? I'm gonna give you the name.
I would love to know why.
I'm gonna give you the name of a country, and
he's gonna give me the name of a country. He doesn't deal with talking to communists at all whatsoever. So he's going to try to say what they're called. I love how we're about to go. Is North Korea democratic? No. So just because they say they're democratic, he thinks he has an ace in the hole right now.
and you can understand it when I give you the name of it.
Okay.
The Democratic North Korean Democratic or the Democratic country of North Korea.
The Democratic country.
They call themselves democratic, but in any way,
The Democratic country of the DCNK. Everyone knows what the DCNK is.
PRK.
Yeah.
DPRK.
but in any way, shape, or form, are they democratic? But do they call themselves democratic, and do they say that they have a goal of being democratic?
So right now I'm like, perfect. They're saying that there's something, and they're not that thing. Awesome.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm like, "Whoo, here we go, baby. We're off to the roughest start possible." I'm trying to make this plane leave the ground, and there's no room to move it, and I'm gonna have to levitate it like a fucking UFO. But goddamn it, I'm gonna try.
And that's the thing, is that he's actually setting it up really nice for you here, just completely on accident because he's an idiot.
He's fucking Mr. Magoo with politics. It just happens.
Well, so I agree with you right now, but the American Communist Party doesn't agree with you, and they consider them communists. So I need you to realize something. I know that you personally, individually, don't consider these things to be communist.
Yeah.
But there's thousands of people that do consider it to be communist.
Because
and I feel like you're kind of ignoring them wholesale because you're like, they're not communists.
No,
but they think they are, and there's a lot of them.
I'm in no way, shape, or form ignoring them. I'm calling them liars. I'm calling them liars. They're either they're lying to themselves or they're lying to...
They're not even wrong, right? They could just be wrong, but no, they're liars. They're
intentionally lying. Okay, so like they're intentionally saying like they're he's like arriving at the correct answer by accident, so it's hard to explain.
Yes, it's exactly. No, he's literally right. Anyone who says
I told you it broke my
communist,
fucking brain, dude. Listening back to
anyone who says they're a communist is really just interested in centralizing power to obtain ultimate power, so they could basically enslave everyone.
Which he already admitted is socialism.
Yes, but I know, dude, I can't. But that's so. I mean, literally, there's to this man. Yeah. There's never been. And here's the thing, though. What about the people that centralize power and then they just end up failing? Like, how does he differentiate between the bad faith actor who's just using communism in order to trick people into slavery, and the good faith actor who's using communism to try to get to communism, but he just ends up not being able to do it? What is inside this man's brain? It's
everybody else.
Yeah. Hey, sounds like you're lying to yourself. We have a hand up right now. Who has their hand up?
So
he sounds. Oh man,
we have a hand up right now. Patrick has been listening to this. and I am trying to get as many answers out of this person as possible. And
I'm not interested in that.
My spirit animal has entered the room.
Oh,
hi. So I heard before you don't think Hassan is a communist.
no, I don't.
Do you know what agitprop is?
Yeah.
Is a term originally used in Soviet Russia during the communist regimes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Communist propaganda.
Yep.
Hassan once hosted a show called Agitprop
Uh-huh.
On the Young Turks.
on the Young Turks. Yeah, he hosted a show named after communist propaganda that he described as communist propaganda. So you're just wrong.
No, it doesn't. That doesn't make me wrong. That means
No, it does.
he knows
You're
exactly what
objectively wrong.
audience he's leaning towards, and he's literally going towards that audience. And that audience are gaslighting. That audience are gaslighting.
He had an entire show. No, hold on. No, he had an entire show named after a communist propaganda because he's a communist.
He's also no. Wait. Before you start laughing, he's a spinoff of the Young Turks. Wait. Stop.
No, stop. Yeah.
He's a spinoff of the Young Turks. Two people that in no way, shape, or form share any of the ideas of the Young Turks.
What does that mean?
It was literally show, and it was named after a communist propaganda. Are you on crack?
No, he's
okay. Let me ask you this question, because I don't like Hassan. I don't really watch him that much. Has Hassan actually called himself a communist?
If that person wasn't nice, if he wasn't nice and he said that, I would just be like, what is this like? Do you apply that to the right ever? Do they ever call themselves Nazis? Do they ever call themselves these things that you call them? No. And what is your evidence that they are these things?
The people on the left that call themselves communists are not really communists, and the people on the right that specifically state they're not Nazis are Nazis. It makes complete sense, Rhetorical. It makes complete sense. Do you cut across the wrist or up and down? I can't remember. I think it's up and down. That's most effective.
Well, the last thing I want is attention, so figure that one out for yourself.
He calls himself a lot of different things. Communists always call themselves different things because if communists actually called themselves communists, everybody would light them on fire and throw them out of the helicopter because they're evil. You know?
Okay.
They're evil people. Yeah.
So he hasn't outwardly called himself a communist. Do you think there's a possibility he might have named this show the way he did to...
Oh, they would give the same levity to anybody on the right. That was like, this is the Nazi cast. And it's like, it's a goof, get it?
I like how he's like, so what you're saying is that your hypothesis is that he named a show after communist propaganda because he's a communist? That seems like a bit of a stretch simulation, Jesus. Like, what the fuck? This is my favorite part, I think. It's my favorite part.
Create controversy? Hey, do you think a rapist calls himself a rapist, or does he hide it and then go around raping people?
Oh, you guys are so dumb. Holy shit. That's all I got. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, leave.
I hate so I was being a prick there because you know me. I don't have patience.
That's absurd. No, saying Lenin is not a fucking communist, and then saying how Hassan Biker is. And I've prefaced this months ago in my content on my YouTube channel, and in this podcast, and in the past few episodes, where I've said,
over and over again.
We are calling people Nazis that are not Nazis, and we can't call people communists that are communists.
Yes. Now, Black-pilled Frank and Tunis, they're nice, but they're just idiots. This Babak guy is a real piece of shit, he seems like.
He tried being cunty, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess he owned me somehow. Yeah, but no. Guess. Obviously, people say that they are certain things that they are nowhere near who they are. There's multiple examples.
People lie.
But, I mean,
So in this, people say that they are things that they're not.
Yes.
But then people are not things that they say. So is anyone ever really anything?
Honestly, I didn't realize it. It's very postmodernist.
No, dude. This man, his entire brain.
But it didn't evolve into anything. It's his entire just postmodern. Brain. He's literally in 1958 right now.
Yes.
Postmodernism never evolves to anything after that.
This man's entire existence exists within a hyper reality. Nothing means anything, and the things that do mean things actually don't mean them, and the things that don't mean things do mean them. There's no rhyme or reason to anything he says. I don't understand how he like brushes his teeth in the morning.
Got him to laugh, so that's
Yeah, I got me to laugh.
So, RD, let me ask you this question, because
Yes.
obviously you're talking about communism, and you brought up Marxism a lot of times. Do you think that American corporations, like James Lindsay thinks, are being infiltrated by Marxists?
Yes.
Really? You
Mhm.
really believe that?
Yeah, but now that I understand what you guys can't even like acknowledge is communism, which is Marxism, it makes your worldview makes sense to me.
Like, how much more polite could I have said that? Like, okay, so you guys don't even think the epitome of communism is communism, so how the fuck am I supposed to, like, sell you on this fucking idea right now? I'm in such a position where I'm like, how do I continue to have a conversation right now where Vladimir Lenin's not a communist, so there's no possible way I could convince you that there's even a slice of Marxism anywhere in society at all whatsoever.
Yeah, it's impossible. I mean, this conversation is fruitless. The fruit that will be bore from this is specifically so we can sit here and make fun of these retards. It's the only thing it's good for.
Because
Hold
yeah,
on.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just can you just tell us which executives in corporate America are communists?
Well, the concept of DEI originated in the Soviet Union.
Oh God. Can you name a single executive that's a communist?
Okay, so we've done.
Can you name a Nazi in government? He seems to call them Nazis all the time. Can you name? No. But they're what is it? A Nazi sympathizer. He sounds like this is how feminine it is, dude. Come out and say it. You know, passive aggressively, they're just going to associate Trump with Hitler's rhetoric, but not fully call him Hitler, but pretty much call him Hitler, and implying that there's white nationalism on the right. But just. That's enough. That's easy. But it's like, now I need to come up with if I did research, I could fucking find one. That's the most frustrating part, is that this is why I like to make videos, where I can like actually prove like what I'm saying and whatnot. And it's frustrating because it's like, I bet I can fucking find one, dude. I bet I could find one that has some ties. And it's not going to be the same thing as like Donald Trump's dad, Fred Trump, was near a Nazi rally and got arrested for something, so they tried to liken him to the Nazi rally. Like, my association to people in power that are close to Marxism is going to be very correlative and not just guilt by association.
You got to think about that, right? Like somebody who's within a couple miles of a Nazi rally makes him a possible Nazi. But if someone is a follower of Lenin, or even if you're Lenin himself, that doesn't actually make him a communist. Do you see the battle we're up? Do you see the battle we're up against? It's impossible. It's why they're going to win, because this will just keep happening until we're just all slaves eating bugs inside pods. It's going to be great.
Well, this is recurrent in my criticism of the concept of the woke right. Like, comparing the left and the right at this point is very difficult to do.
That's with the Democratic Republic of North Korea, where like you can say you're something and you're not that. You can also not say you're something and be that, correct?
But you can also say you're something and actually be it. Like
the
USSR,
right? Or you can hide, or you can be subversive.
Wait, stop for a second. The USSR is literally called the United Soviet Socialist Republic.
Well, I thought North Korea wasn't democratic, but all of a sudden the USSR was socialist. Oh my God. That's what I would have said to him if he was mean, but he wasn't.
But socialists aren't communists, so.
Oh my God.
Why? I was mean to them.
They were socialist by every single definition of the word, not communist. No matter how much they wanted to pretend to their proles that they were going to eventually become communist, in no way, shape, or form was Lenin or Stalin going to.
Can we apply that analysis to Trump, that no matter what he says, he's not going to do it with certain things? Like,
sure.
He's talking about fucking communist regimes in totality. He was like, they were never going to do it. Well, what about their attempt to do it? Yeah, it wasn't going to happen. Was there a lot of suffering on the attempt to it? Yeah, but it wasn't communism. Okay, hey, how do you feel about Trump? Oh, here's what Trump is going to do 100% for sure.
Yeah, right. And think about it, right? Like, you have to think about this. This is what has allowed communism to proliferate and prevail all these years, is that it's never been communism. And since it's never been communism, there's never actually been a true communist. So each group that comes along 50, 60, 70, 80 years later, they're the ones that are actually trying true communism until they fail. And then they are then retconned into never actually trying real communism or ever being communism. I'm assuming it'll eventually kill like over a billion people.
That's one side of communism, but the other side of communism in the United States is that the American Communist Party is like North Korea's communist, everything's communist. So we have the old new communism of communism's never been tried, and in like a 5-year period, now it's like, no, China's communist. 5 years ago, China wasn't communist in the conversation online. Now, China's communist, and it's gaining popularity. They're like, yeah, China's communist. Just like that, communism's never been tried. There's all these communist countries.
But this Tunis guy, and probably Black Pill Frank, but especially Tunis here, he would probably say that China isn't actually communist. Is what he would probably say. But.
Oh no, dude, he's gonna deny that Vladimir Lenin was fucking communist, but definitely call China communist.
Release power to create their communist utopia that they were lying about.
Do you consider it a valid argument where you say that you don't validate that it's communism, even though historically it's known to be communist, and they're the founders of these communist revolutions, and it's called communist revolutions historically?
Yep.
It's not even a controversial thing to say. Do you think it's a valid argument for you to go, no?
Yes.
And just, okay.
Absolutely valid, because I'm not just saying nah, I'm explaining why.
I hate it when he does this, but I'm explaining why. Your explanation sucks. Hey, if a pedophile explains why they abused a kid, guess what I think about the explanation, faggot? Is what I would say if he was mean. But he wasn't mean, so I didn't say it to him. But like...
I wonder if he's arguing this from a consequentialist perspective. Right. If the attempts
try to get into his mind, Patrick, I dare you.
But I'm trying to think of him as Vosh, right? If the attempts of communism never actually end up in communism,
dude, he's Shang Tsung. He absorbs the souls of other leftists rapid fire in a fucking conversation, and you don't know which one you're fighting.
But if the attempts of communism, even if they were attempting communism, never actually ended up in communism, consequentially, then perhaps those people never were communists, because if they were communists, then it would have ended up in communism. I don't know. I'm trying to get inside this idiot's head. It's hard.
Well, there's three certainties in life. There's death, taxes, and you putting more thought into his opinion than him. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Let me go in further about this. So you think the Marxists are taking over corporate America and
infiltrated? Not taken over completely, infiltrated.
How far have they infiltrated? I mean, are they trying to do away with capitalism altogether?
Well, they're trying to...
In my mind, I have Dengism. I can't say Dengism. I have to say this to a kindergartner right now, okay? So I have to try to find something that exists in society. I can't get into any sort of deep conversation at all whatsoever. So in my mind, I'm just thinking like, okay, where are they acting like it's capitalism, but it's not? They're not. They like go woke, go broke is the first thing that I think of, where they don't care if they lose money. They're pushing propaganda. That's not capitalist. A capitalist would want to make money and go with the normal opinion. A capitalist wouldn't be counterculture to lose money at the corporate level.
Yeah, exactly.
To use capitalism against itself. So capitalism would just look for profit, right? But isn't it strange how you've heard the phrase go woke, go broke? Mm-hmm. They kind of focus more on putting out a certain messaging in the country rather than making money. Doesn't feel very capitalist. They're ignoring market signals to push propaganda into the public, would be a general example.
Can you give me an example of a go woke, go broke that you're talking about? That way I can know what you're referencing.
Completely irrelevant. Doesn't matter what the example is. No matter what example I give, it doesn't matter. It's to try to get me to go, I don't know. And I completely feed into it and go, yeah, I can't think of anything. I can look something up. But like my point is the exact same, whether or not I give you an example, because you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, Bud Light, right? Bud Light. Go woke, go broke.
I know what you mean. I just want to hear it from you.
Whatever woke movie. I don't watch new movies that come out. They're not very interesting to me. But I'd have to Google it right now, to be honest with you.
Okay.
In good faith.
No,
I can't think of something off of the top of my head.
That's perfect.
I could find an example.
RD, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Humana.
My job, I'm a buyer. I'm a buyer at a production plant, and we have meetings every morning, financial meetings and production meetings. And I assure you, we are not reading Das Kapital. We are not talking about Marxism. We're talking about how to.
Now, he's being nice, but if he was being mean, I would pay money out of my own pocket to have a plane fly by his house that says the word faggot. Well, where I work, we don't do that. Like, isn't that the epitome of, like, a white person going, well, I don't see racism? Like, okay.
Yeah, it also,
it's the most basic arguments that they use against people that they're doing right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I would have been like, okay, well, are there DEI initiatives at your company? Do you have like a sustainability promises?
Patrick, I can't ask them questions because it's barely on topic. If I ask a question, it has to be like I'm talking to God and going, okay, I'm going to ask a question and I have to make sure it's the most perfect question I could try to ask to try to get inside their head. Because that's just going to go on to, if I say DEI right there, I've lost them. So I can't, there's like...
Why would you have lost them?
Then it's going to go into fucking... It's what it's already going to go into anyway, but like, if I ask if there's DEI at the workplace, that doesn't matter because DEI means something to me and you. If I say DEI, then we have to unpack what DEI is.
Yeah,
before we even talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Reduce labor, do as much as we possibly can with as little man hours as we can.
You're being capitalist.
To maximize profits. That's our goal.
Now,
to make as much money as possible.
So just two quick questions.
How is that Marxism? How is that Marxism?
Did I ever say that where you work is Marxism? Was that a claim that I made?
No, but what you're saying and what Lindsay's saying is that all these companies are infiltrated with Marxism, and it's just bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit.
But you're saying that since where you work, your counterpoint, your rebuttal was, well, I work at a place and we don't read Das Kapital. Mm-hmm. I mean, does that mean there's no communism? Is that the only way to this communism infiltrate?
I use that as an example.
It's not a very good example.
Our main purpose is to maximize profits. That's all we care about.
Okay, well,
that sounds capitalist.
Let's get into a specific. To step away from Frank's example, because obviously I would say a production plant probably wouldn't be.
Run away from that at full speed.
Can you give me an example of a woke company and an operation that they do that you would see as DEI or something like that? I just want to get a.
Well, diversity quotas.
Sure, but
where they're
give an example.
Hiring based on race and not on performance. Okay, hold on.
So what's frustrating about these conversations or debates or whatever is I don't want to go in with a bunch of talking points and think about how it's going to go, and then like I have to show an example of DEI, and it's like it's like talking to a first grader. Like, where do I start with my DEI example in this conversation? So I'm trying to think to myself of like, that's why I'm trying to be general and vague, because then things get into the weeds with them of deconstructing like what I'm saying, and
you have to handle them. You have to handle them in a very.
You want to know what it is,
way.
dude? It's exactly what Kyle Kalinske says, where he has to walk the fucking retarded right wingers through it. That's how I feel. I am the dialectical opposite of Kyle Kalinske.
Oh my god!
I have to sit there and fucking walk them through it.
Because I just want to make sure we're making the difference between hiring practices and goals. Because there's a lot of companies that have goals for certain hiring processes or certain reaching out to certain groups and demographics. But there's not many that have hiring practices where they're actively rejecting certain people.
We just intuitively understand that the goal determines the hiring practices, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of certain races and actively accepting certain people of other races. Like I haven't.
Well, okay, so this is from Bloomberg. I can put it in the comments here.
Sure, that's fine.
And I can read it off.
Okay.
In the same way they go aggregate with like 93% peaceful, right? They divert to the aggregate, and most illegal immigrants don't commit crime and whatnot, and they ignore the specific pockets where things do happen. So I have to go aggregate. He's trying to lock me down on something specific, and it's like, no. I have to find something that's across the board, and I managed to find it in a short amount of time.
Patrick, you're a speaker. Are you muted? Because if you want to, just jump on in. You don't have to raise your hand.
So clearly Patrick has a voice changer on, and it sounds like a silly, high-pitched little voice. Now, Tunis does not know if it is a female or someone with a voice changer, as you will hear at the end. But let's take this through.
Yeah, I heard you talk earlier about how like sometimes there's people that call themselves communists, but they're not really. I mean, like kind of by that definition, there actually never has been a communist, right? Because pretty much Marx and all the prominent socialists have always stated that the purpose of socialism is to lead into communism, right? So essentially all power has to be consolidated into the state. And at that point, the dictatorship or the proletariat will rise up, and then they'll sort of rule over the land for a while. And then eventually the state will wither away, and then all men and women will be equal. They'll work according to their own needs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like communism, a communist state is a utopia. Utopia is by definition a state that can never be. So by that definition, there's no such thing as a communist, because we'll never ever be able to reach the utopia. Like that's like basically sort of like wishing for Christ to come back and we all bow down before him and then we enter into, God's kingdom.
Yeah,
so
that's my entire argument.
Yeah, that's his entire argument, Patrick.
But that's what?
Did you hear what he said? Did you hear him?
Yeah, I did. Wait, so I don't understand though, because he thinks that there actually are communists.
Yeah, that's my entire argument.
But no, hold on. He actually says, I didn't hear this last night when I was talking to this guy, but he said that there are communists. It's just that Lenin was a communist, but I just made the argument that there actually never could be a communist based on the own faulty logic of what communism is.
You just made his point, dude.
I did not at all. Oh my God, this man.
Dude, it's horseshoe theory, but being so stupid, you're brilliant.
No such thing as a communist.
No. There's a such thing as people who want to be communists, who have told themselves they would like to enter communism. But if you look at the actions, ideas, and platforms of these people, they're just authoritarians LARPing.
Right.
Well, that's so socialism is the consolidation of power into the state, and then the head of the state then controls everything, and then at that point, are you familiar with the underpants gnomes from South Park?
Yeah.
Like somehow magically the state will wither away, and then all men will be equal. That's why everyone calls communists religious zealots, because what you're really looking for is like Jesus or some sort of like futuristic society where we don't have to work and all private property is abolished. It's literally impossible to enter into communism unless you can, basically all conflict, all things must be resolved. That's why their states always fail, because they're seeking to implement something that can never be. Because
Animal Farm is reality.
Yeah, exactly. How can anyone be a communist? If you like anyone who's, would you say that someone is a communist who strives for communism, right? So the socialist seeks to consolidate power in the state because in his mind, he's consolidating power, and then he's going to redistribute that power to the masses. Now, that's why everybody hates communism, because communism itself is a Ponzi scheme designed to trick retarded people into letting sociopaths consolidate power into the state so then they can rule over you and enslave you, essentially. That's why everybody hates you guys. That's why
As soon as you said retarded, you were becoming done with it as you were talking, and you just went straight to fucking you guys. You just went straight to fucking you guys. You were talking about communists, and then the mask came off, and you're like, you fucking people are ruining the country. We need to mass deport all of you.
I did a pretty good job of speaking in like vague language up until that point, but then I
as soon as you said
thinking,
retard, dude, fucking the beast came out of you.
Yeah, it built the bridge between what I was saying and the people in the space.
Everybody hates communists because you're very stupid people. But I gotta go. Have a good night, guys.
Oh, okay. I would have liked to respond to that, but cool.
Listen,
thanks for coming.
You can respond to it. It's your space, man.
No. But no, what she's literally pointing out, or I think it was, or maybe it might have been using a voice changer, but that doesn't.
Oh my god. He thought that he may have been speaking to a female that entire time.
What they're pointing out is the reason why I'm saying that none of these people are communists, because when you're an authoritarian, you're just going for power.
Yes.
You don't care how you get that power. You don't care who you use to get that power, but you're just trying to hold on to power.
Have you ever experienced this before where he's like explaining your point perfectly?
Yes.
In the perfect, succinctly, in the exact amount of words that you would hope to explain it to him, but that's his argument against what you're saying. Like, this is fascinating.
He just described it's so funny. He's literally just describing what a communist is.
He just gave up the game. Usually, dude, we're getting to meta level. The more we talk about it, we're getting to meta levels of it. Where like it started off with like the American Communist Party, and then that's the so below, and then we went as above to the upper echelons of the meta analysis and whatnot. And then we have like Kyle Kalinske, and we have the Vanguard, and we have like what's going on with the Young Turks. And now we have someone where there's not a word. What's the Chinese word? Baijiu? Or something like that? That means like...
Is that Chinese for retarded?
No, useless white leftist. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I do remember. I can't remember what it is, but they literally have a specific term for essentially white useless idiot leftist. Yeah. Or useful idiot leftist. Yeah. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, white left.
Baizuo. What do we do for the black ones? What is that?
Well, it's up to the Marxist, Leninist Chinese to decide that one. We'll see what they come up with for the black people.
And so that's their goal. Their goal will never be, even if everything worked in a line, and now it's like, okay, it's time to step down.
But do you understand how they rationalize that? They call it the dictatorship of the proletariat.
Yeah. So
I've talked with the American Communist Party. So the way that they rationalize it is it's a dictatorship of the proletariat, a dictatorship of the people.
But to point it out, that's why I've written multiple times that Hassan's a stupid LARPer. Because he is. He's a LARPer that lies to a lot of people and double talks his.
All of them are. All of them are.
That's and here's the thing. So I don't understand.
Where are the wires getting crossed is what I'm trying to figure out. And it's keeping me up at night. I'm like, you just said it perfectly.
If we were to take him through every single person that ever called themselves a communist in history, I think he would probably state that none of them actually were communists, right? He would have to.
There could be a communist revolution happening, and he's like, well, how's a communist? It's still a state.
Also, Wayang De Hai Bai Chai. Useless black idiot in Chinese is terrible Chinese, but that's useless black idiot.
At least you're getting out in front of it.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah.
His way.
Well, what does it matter if he's pushing communist rhetoric? I mean, isn't the end result what's important?
No.
So, I mean, there's useful idiots on the right that don't realize that they're radicalizing people necessarily, or you say they do know they're right.
So I have to phrase it that the right, because he views the right differently than the left. So before I say that the left is doing this, hey, there's people on the right that are useful idiots, right? They're putting out harmful rhetoric that is negatively impacting society politically. So, you're aware of this concept, and you said everything perfectly. So let me talk about how the right does it, and then maybe you can possibly admit that the left is also doing it, and then from there, that's how much thought's going into my head. Let me see if I wasted all that thought right now.
Radicalizing people. Do you think that Hassan doesn't think he's radicalizing people?
I can't go all the way into his mind, but if I was to guess, I would say I don't think he cares.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't think he cares either way.
Okay, so you don't think he's intentionally trying to radicalize?
How often do you hear, I don't care, it doesn't matter from communists when they're confronted with something that is inconvenient?
You just sidestep it, you brush it away. But also, he can't go inside Hassan's mind, but he can't go inside Lenin's. He could go inside. He could go inside Lenin's mind, and he knows that Lenin wasn't an actual real communist.
No. To his brain, it's by his actions. He was an authoritarian, and communism isn't authoritarian, even though socialism is when the government takes all of the private property and owns it. And
I know.
Do you think there's multiple parties when the one government owns everything?
No, I think his entire platform is based around trying to get as many people to pay attention to him as possible, regardless if it's hate or good, because it's all money.
He took a pretty good hit on the Palestine stuff, but
did he?
He lost some stuff from that, yeah.
Not really. If you look at it, he lost a lot of people in the United States, but he was quickly picked up by a lot of Middle Eastern followers. And that's where a lot of the money comes from. So he made quite
a lot of Hassan's money comes from the Middle East.
He just made that up. He nothing to back that up.
He's done nothing in the conversation to make me feel comfortable with taking that information at wholesale.
No, you can't. He just says whatever he wants. Nothing matters. He's just typical postmodernist.
A bit for picking up on the Palestine side of it, just not from the United States.
Hassan's main objective is money above anything.
Thank you for that.
But he's on the left, and politically, you consider him a socialist, which is anti-capitalist, right?
I consider him between a communist and a socialist.
But
like I say, I don't listen to him enough, so I really can't.
You shouldn't. You can't. He's fucking unlistenable.
No, I don't.
So he just said, I don't listen to him enough. And I said, you shouldn't, you can't, he's unlistenable.
He's made for 14-year-olds.
He's made for 14-year-olds, right? Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I do. I listen to him enough.
You can't write it. The guy's comedic timing is brilliant. He's a brilliant mind. He's like Rain Man.
He is a full-fledged capitalist that LARPs as a socialist / communist in order to get stupid people to give him money.
Oh my God.
You want to know what's great? Once you get rid of capital and you own all the resources, you're technically not a capitalist because there's no money. It's a child's argument.
Yes. So you're not going. So he's a socialist capitalist.
Yeah. Yeah. I would argue.
Socialist is by definition anti-capitalist.
No, not exactly. Almost every single no country in the world has absolutely full free markets, and no country in the world has
government regulation and a market is not socialism, which is what the left has been saying for like the past fucking 10 years. Socialism is not when the government does stuff. Socialism is owning the means of production, right? Marxist, very clear cut. It's not when the government does stuff.
Exactly.
They will revert back to all the arguments that they said that you make about them in a fucking minute.
Yeah, the caricatures.
Absolute socialism. Everything's.
I know it's the pursuit of it.
It's a mixed
it's the pursuit of it.
Yeah, but everything's a mixed economy, and in his idea, it's just a form of a mixed economy that has a little bit more federal power. But no, he's not a. And I would say a little bit, and that's kind of being distant. That's disingenuous. He wants a lot more federal power.
Thank you.
But it's still not.
Okay.
It's not anywhere near socialism in its truest form or anything, because he wouldn't survive in any type.
It's not socialism in its truest form. Is anything Nazism in its truest form? Is anything white nationalist in its truest form? Is any of the things that you guys levy against the right in its truest form? No.
It's also really, it's always so frustrating with these people because they're like, oh, well, no, they're democratic socialists and they're progressives. And it's like, is that you can't just all of a sudden just like pull a Michael Scott from The Office and just declare communism, right? You need to it's the dialectic, right? You need to slowly transition it, slowly move it towards socialism and communism. That's how it's done.
It's one of the most infamously subversive political ideologies in human history.
Yeah, it just keeps killing people and just keeps coming back.
It's known for its subversiveness.
I know.
Socialism.
Oh, hold on, but it happens in steps. So for example, would it sound ridiculous if I was making the argument to you that since the right doesn't have openly white supremacist, white nationalist, or Nazi rhetoric, if I was saying they weren't being open about it, would you consider that to be a valid rebuttal that they're not Nazis because they're not being open about it and they're not calling themselves that and they're not strictly adhering to 1930s and 1940s Hitlerian rhetoric?
I don't know. That was a weird shift because when you started by asking me if the right was like, no, the right is not just by access of being right, openly Nazi or anything like that. But if we're going into the 1930s, I mean, I don't know how I can even say yes or no to that because they openly said they were they were Nazis. So I don't know how to.
Right, but
when you need him to be literal, he's metaphorical, and when you need him to be metaphorical, he's literal. It's constantly the opposite of what you need the entire time you're talking to him.
I wonder if this like his argumentation is like lack of logic and like coherent. Like I wonder if this like extends to other parts of his life.
He's
method
acting.
How his conversations with his wife are.
He's Joaquin Phoenix. He's method acting. I'm convinced of it.
No, I think he's Jared Leto sending used condoms to his the people starring in the movie. Continue.
They're kind of openly stating their goals.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, but they're not being out in the open with it.
Are you talking about the 30s?
If they are out in, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the right. A lot of times I'll see people on the left say this is what the right really means when they say this, but they're not saying it. And then me saying to you that this is what Hassan Piker really means, or like people on the left, what they really mean because they're anti-capitalist and they're socialists and they're communists. Mm-hmm. We're living in two like opposing universes. Very fascinating to me right now.
We're just viewing the same.
Hold on, Da. Okay.
So there's an affront that they're not viewing the world objectively. Upset. Isn't that funny? Yeah. How we go from postmodern to me being like, yeah, we both have two different universes. You would think a postmodernist would be like, yeah, we are living in two different universes.
Well, that would require the postmodernist to understand and know that he's a postmodernist, and this man is not self-aware of that. RD, he is not aware of that.
Okay, I'm gonna try to clear this up as best I can.
Okay, he's gonna try and clear this up as best as he can. Let's see how it goes.
It's undeniable that there's communists online. Anybody that says that there's not communists.
In his mind, I'm a crazy right-winger, so he's making a concession in his mind right now. He's like, hey, communists do exist online.
Yeah, just
that's
online.
Him making a concession, which technically I got a crumb just then. Like, okay,
Online is lying to themselves and gaslighting. And what I think me and DA are saying is Hassan is playing to those people for financial gain.
Aren't there so many other ways to make money? Now that I'm thinking about it as a content creator, why would you appeal to those people? Why would you appeal to the people that have no money? How does that make any sense?
Well, in terms of a grift? It seems to be working out well for Hassan, you know. But think about it,
yes,
though.
Because he's fucking paid by Jeff Bezos.
No,
yeah.
No, I know they don't have money, but I mean, a lot of communists, especially young communists, are like, right? Communism, just like transgenderism, is a very first world type of problem. Once things get very good, right? Once things improve to a certain to a certain like
level
degree,
of comfort.
Yeah, then they can start looking around and being like, well, what can we do here? Things are too good. You know what I mean? So I'm sure Hassan's viewers do have some money.
Well, no, sure. But his money, he's paid by Twitch and ads from Twitch. So it's not like he's just coming up on donations like how Tim Pool did, which they would hate to admit. Yeah,
that's true. I forgot that he's paid by Twitch.
He's corporately paid. Yeah, it's not just donations. The donations are there, sure. The subscriptions are there, sure.
No real conviction. He's literally just saying what he thinks would make him enough money from the people that follow him.
Exactly.
Okay, so can we call him a communist sympathizer then? If he's not a communist?
Sure. I mean, you can.
Since he's trying to garner a fan base of people that are communists.
I mean, sympathizer is a very loaded term, but yeah, I can agree to that.
It's the left uses it all the time. If they can't call you a Nazi, they call you a Nazi sympathizer. That's where I got that from. I got that from the left, and he's like, that's kind of a loaded term.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, though, because you're a rightist, and you using it is not approved. You using it is the problem. Doesn't matter if it's a leftist technique.
It's not what's being used, it's who's using it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely don't have a problem with that, because he's definitely, it's undeniable that he's playing to that faction of the left.
Oh my god, he couldn't call him communist. He's like,
nope.
He turned to the fucking Bugman from Men in Black just then. He's like, faction of communists? He's like, he's malfunctioning to try and spit something out.
I'm gonna throw some fucking sugary water in his face if he keeps talking. It's mind-numbing. Listen to him talk.
Sugar water.
Anybody he's not playing.
We can shake hands right there. We can shake hands right there.
All right, yeah, cool.
That's undeniable. But there's a flip side to that coin. Just like there's communists online, there's definitely people that are far, far right online too.
And before we go any further, because I want to point that out. Like, the reason why I said loaded term when it comes to sympathizer, because it depends on what we're talking about.
Oh my god!
So, like, I'm not saying no to sympathizer, but I would.
It's deconstructionist, but there's no depth. It's a deconstructionist normie, which is the worst possible outcome of talking to somebody.
And they're just blank slates. Any deconstruction is welcome, and that's what's funny, right? He's like, well, it depends on what you mean by that. He can't tell you why it depends on what you mean by that. Right. He just knows that it depends because reality in and of itself is subjective.
I know, but he can't turn it into anything.
Well, no.
Say if you're somebody trying to gain from the type of people, it's a sympathizer, but it's sympathizer in a way that you're just kind of selfish asshole when you walk away the moment.
He's a grifter.
Yeah.
He's posing as a sympathizer, but being a grifter. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure to clear that up. Cool. Go ahead.
What did that add to the conversation?
Absolutely nothing.
I literally said, so he's a grifter. He's like, yeah. So what do you... He's like, hold on. Let me completely halt the conversation for a second. So let me add some context and be really wordy with what I'm saying. So when you say sympathizer, okay, it depends on what it means. And I'm like, so he's a grifter? He's like, yeah.
I don't.
Me?
Yeah.
I can say something?
Sure.
Okay. So, I think part of the divide here is just, no offense rhetorically, but it's
no
like,
offense.
There's a very superficial analysis. Like you look at people who identify as democratic socialists or whatever, and like think that means that they are the epitome of like a Marxist ideologue. And I don't even...
Yes. Dude, I hate this guy.
Okay.
He had a show called Agitprop, which is communist propaganda.
Well, no,
it's called Agitprop.
So I didn't say this, but I'm making it seem like, like people that are in like the DSA are like Marxists.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
It's foundational. The Democratic Socialists of America.
Yeah.
Specifically cite Marxism, Leninism. Let me just put it on screen for posterity.
Oh, you got the evidence, huh?
The Democratic Socialists of America support a wide range of ideologies within the framework of democratic socialism, such as the Democratic Road to Socialism, Libertarian Socialism, Orthodox Marxism, Evolutionary Socialism, Trotskyism, and Marxism-Leninism. If you have a drop, you know what? There's the one drop rule for black people. There's a one drop rule for communists.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no such thing as a little bit of communism.
Just a little bit. I love that though. But look at it though. everywhere it goes, the road is to socialism.
The road. Right? That's where it's leading to. It's done in steps. It's done in. Oh my God.
This is what happens when, you have bad faith actors who are just lying, but this is what happens when you have people that just fundamentally don't. I don't understand communism as well as some other people, but these people have a fundamental misunderstanding of what communism actually is. It is excruciating to listen to.
Even think that there's a bunch of people, especially young people in this country, reading theory every day. There are a lot of people who just look at Scandinavian countries, don't know the difference between social democracy and
Right. They don't understand how the road that they're going down. Right. I'm agreeing with this so far, but he's saying it in an adversarial tone.
Democratic socialism, and they aspire to have more say in their lives, more democracy in the workplace, things like that. And then you, with kind of a John Bircher perspective, project onto them like some kind of 1930s rehash of those politics in America, which would never happen because the United States is a fundamentally big L liberal country. That's the reigning ideology here, and both parties are big L liberal parties.
It can never be subverted. It's the power structure that's in charge. And by the way, I searched his profile for the word socialism, and he's not explicitly. He does the kind of thing that Kyle Kalinske does, where he's very suggestive. But it's never outwardly saying. He's very protective of socialism and always telling people they don't understand socialism.
Yeah, and I love how he said it's a big L liberal country. Liberal, like what kind of liberal?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, right? We've been run by neocons and neoliberals for what was it, 2024 in the year of our Lord, like over 100 years we've been run by neocons and neoliberals, which are in direct conflict with like what we would consider liberalism to actually be. So like what kind of liberal country are we actually, sir?
Well, but that's the thing is they view communism, they view an all-in-one solution to an ideology. Liberalism is a defensive position. It should be combined with capitalism and Christianity, and that seemed to really work well for the country. But it's like, if you're pointing out a fault with liberalism, it's like, it's not supposed to be an all-in-one solution. It's a part of a greater solution.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's not, at least our form of liberalism, it's not like a totalizing ideology with like this, like,
it's defensive. It says you can't do this and I get to have this. It's very stripped down.
Well, yeah. And that makes sense too, right? Because it's like based on like negative rights.
Yeah,
so that makes sense.
Negative rights, defensive.
Yeah.
So I just feel like the whole conversation is kind of pointless. There is no threat of a communist takeover in America. There is no Marxist infiltration of corporate America. In order to get to the upper echelons of corporate America, you have to be a big L liberal. Capitalism, equality, democracy, free speech, whatnot.
Well, okay. So to interject, but just to try to wrap that up, or maybe continue it. So Black Lives Matter was started by trained Marxists, and during 2020, we saw nationwide riots during a pandemic lockdown, using a lot of Black Bloc, anarchist, anti-capitalist tactics, and it was essentially corporately funded. I mean, they made like $90 million in a year, and so like I understand what you're saying.
What do you think was corporately funded?
Yeah,
there's. I mean, this is again, we're like rehashing a lot of like MAGA anti-communist talking points.
Hand waving. He's hand waving away with nothing behind it. What do you mean? It's just all talking points.
The reason why I'm rhetorically defective is because what I was supposed to do is like preface it, and I refuse to like overly preface things before I say them. So when I'm saying it was corporately funded, they're like, oh, so they knew it was Marxism and they were funding it. It's like, no.
Yeah.
It was consequentially, right? At the end of the day, it was corporately funded. Whether or not they knew what they were doing, they're corporately funding a branch of communism that played out in society the way that anti-capitalists and communists do.
Wait. Are you saying that communists take advantage of liberals and conservatives in various countries without those liberals and conservatives actually understanding that they're actually giving communists power? That's never happened before, ever, especially not in the 20th century. That's fucking sure.
To add a layer of specificity to it, historically, they take advantage of humanitarian efforts. So this is how we can take away the polarization of left and right politics. Any humanitarian effort. Anything that's for the good of the people, they will latch onto.
Yeah, humanity in general. Yeah.
That, treat like Patrisse Cullors as like the neo-Marx leading some kind of Marxist revolution. It was far, far, far more decentralized than that. I don't think anybody locally...
Yes, I agree with you. It was decentralized through NGOs, non-governmental organizations, which had funding from the federal government in many different ways in terms of grants, in terms of giving money to this thing and then giving it to NGOs. And how do you think people came from outside of the state and all across the country to do these protests during a pandemic lockdown?
Yes, I do love the decentralized nature of it in that every single institution, which are decentralized because there's no central hub to it, but every single one just happened to parrot the exact same talking points. But yeah, there's no coordination at all. There's no coordination. None of it. Nope.
He was getting funds to, turn their cities communist. Where do you think that money went? You think it obviously didn't get distributed to everybody.
And also, before you answer that one, where do you think that money came from? Because I guarantee you McDonald's isn't giving them that money. And
Okay, so he guarantees us that McDonald's was not giving them that money. He probably did. But let's say they didn't. So there's his claim. Well, McDonald's didn't give it to him. I mean, where did that money even come from?
What does that even mean, though? What does that mean McDonald's didn't give them money? How
corporations, because my claim is that it was corporately funded. So the first corporation he thought of was McDonald's, and he says, see, McDonald's didn't give them money. Which is like saying, I went to work and we didn't read Das Kapital. This is the level that we're dealing with right now. So, what if I prove him wrong and then show that corporations actually did fund it? Let's see if that changes their opinion, okay?
I'm not saying McDonald's.
Yeah.
Like, I'm guaranteeing you that this is coming from motivated outside influences along with wealthy individuals. Very little of it is corporate.
No. Yeah, I think, let's say a lot of that money was corporate. It's because they're...
I love it. It's the same thing we see with the Vanguard. One of them makes this overreaching claim that could be disproven, and then immediately one comes in and goes, well, even if it is. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
He's like, it's not. And then someone else comes in, like a fucking hive mind, and goes, yeah, but even if it is. They have such a knee-jerk reaction to go, oh God, what if it is? But even if it is, it's something different.
Wait. Can I share you something?
Yeah.
McDonald's Twitter account, June 3rd, 2020. McDonald's. At McDonald's. They were one of us. Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Alton Sterling, Botham Jean, Atiana Jefferson, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. The brand also issued a statement supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, and a message to the McDonald's system announced a donation of $1 million to the NAACP and the National Urban League. They may not have directly given money to BLM, but they supported it and gave money to Marxist organizations which focus on racialized identities. But yeah, definitely not McDonald's.
You see, Patrick, you didn't prove anything because McDonald's, a corporation, didn't give Black Lives Matter money directly. So let's see if I can find any companies, any corporations, any popular ones that gave BLM, the Black Lives Matter Global Network, the organization started by trained Marxists, have a global network in which to collect money that corporations gave to. Let me see if I can substantiate that claim.
They're not funding Marxists. Like, they're not actually funding a Marxist revolution in their country. They're funding what they know they're funding is a movement towards equality, right? Which is still liberalism. Big L liberalism.
Well, yeah, so Amazon donated part of $10 million to the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. Coca-Cola donated $500,000 to the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. Microsoft.
And this is my favorite part of the conversation because now everyone on the call is about to concede and admit that I was right.
But
it's actually one of my finest moments.
Well, you also have to. So they're not donating to a Marxist revolution. They're donating to equality. Okay, so they're donating, right? Let's take it at face value. They think they're donating to equality, but they're not actually donating to equality. They're donating to equality of outcome or equity.
Patrick,
that's what they're donating
to All Lives Matter would be racist. Donating to Black Lives Matter is donating to equality.
You know what BLM is? BLM is the Black Racial Identitarian Organization of catfishing for communists. You think you're voting for black people that are just nice Americans who want equality, but really you're voting for a bunch of insane racist communist shitheads. They're literally just catfishing corporate America.
They're being fooled. Interesting. But this is my favorite part of the conversation. Obviously, everyone's going to concede and go, you know what, RD, you're right. We said that the corporations are not giving money to Black Lives Matter. Most of their donations are from other outside sources, not from corporations. And that was really responsible of them to do that.
Apple.
Yeah, so then you go and turn around and say there's secret Marxists rather than they're
no, they're not secret Marxists. I mean, they are trained Marxists that started Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
Because they,
RD, I got to ask you a question.
Always the memory wipe where, okay, let me ask you a question.
I know. Just completely, like, he's had a thing rolling around in his empty head for like 5 minutes and he's finally going to ask you. And I'm assuming it's going to have nothing to actually do with what you're saying. It's just going to be a redirect.
About this, as long as we're talking about the riots and stuff like that. Because the epicenter of the BML riots in 2020.
The BML riots. So I'm trying to cook over here, and this guy comes in with the BML riots.
with either black male lesbians or black mattering lives. No.
Black mattering lives.
Black mattering lives.
He started in Minneapolis. And you're trying to tell me that corporations funded Marxists in Minneapolis to burn down Minneapolis after George Floyd. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, no, it's always the communists historically use a humanitarian effort to drive their agenda forward.
Okay. Because you know as well as I do that it's come out that many of the people that were at those riots that were assaulting the police precinct were from out of state. They were as far away as Texas.
Yeah, out of state agitators.
What?
What point? What point is he trying to make? What point is he making?
Because they're dogs. Because they're guided by tones. As long as he has the tone where he sounds like he's disagreeing with me, then whatever fucking words shit out of his face.
But I want to know, like, what inside of his, like, what point. Like,
he has to disagree. He has to push back, and I'm being so reasonable the entire time and making concessions where I can, and also saying, in order for me to make this concession, I would need more than what you're giving me.
Yeah.
Unbearably reasonable. So he's like, yeah, well, people came from out of state. This is the epitome of a deflection.
And what does that? What does that mean? So
we'll find it. Hold on. Well, we're not being fair. Okay, we're not being fair. He's obviously going to explain it.
Right wingers.
Well, okay. Before we get into
they were right wingers,
and I'll
what, dude? He said a good portion of them were right wingers in terms of the chaos of the quarantine race war of the BLM. I'm sorry, the BML riots of 2020.
They were a bunch
right
of
wingers.
They were a bunch of white crackhead Antifa members.
And I love how Tunis comes in and just is like, no, don't. That's not a good point. Like he always says,
he does.
But that was long enough for a deflection. For now, they work in correlation with each other. They're bees. Do bees know why they make honey?
No.
But did they do it well?
Understand. Yes.
Do they do it better than anybody else?
Yeah,
they're human bees.
I want to hear your answer to that, but can we at least admit that none of the corporations really anticipated that when they donated? Like they were, like in their ideas,
it's fucking catfishing. It's
catfishing.
Yes, what a great precursor to that. Like, they thought they were giving their time, money, attention, talent, treasure to something, and it turns out that it feels like communism, doesn't it? Do you feel you're getting sold on something?
It's BLM gaining
it was made by communists.
It's BML. It's BML accruing enough cultural power to basically be like, we have so much power that these companies, like, they're going to want to give us money and fund our Marxist objectives without the company even like purposely knowing that we're actually Marxists that are trying to fund this agenda.
And
like,
having mainstream left and Democrat politicians completely downplay and justify what they were doing. That's why it's paramilitary.
Yeah, exactly. And think about the women. Think about all these dumb white liberal women, the awfuls in these towns all over the place that are advocating for gay porn to be put in these schools, for gender identity to be taught.
Well, no, if they call it something different, then it changes what it is.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, but it's like, do you think that they actually understand that the purpose of what they're actually doing is to like break down the binary in a child's mind in order to like disrupt the capitalist system? So through social reproduction theory, so capitalism is no longer created. Like, no, they don't know that. They're just like, we love the gays and
but that's how they leverage. But that's how they leverage liberalism, which is a defensive position. They go, why not? Individual rights.
They take advantage of. Yeah, they take advantage. They take advantage of both the worst and best aspects of what it means to be human.
Well, that's what a synthesis is, isn't it, Patrick?
Yeah.
I don't even think they even investigated.
It's like they were. It's like they were tricked.
Well, yeah,
there was a moral panic, and they were like, "This is for black rights.
Well,
this is for black people," and then they destroyed black businesses.
It wasn't just
right.
Anybody can speak. You don't have to raise your hand. I'm trying to figure this out every day.
It's okay if I could jump in now. Hi, everyone. My name is Shakri. I just want to make a comment about the Marxist aspect. I think BLM, was grassroots, but I think what made it look the same, right, across the world, because there was BLM around the whole world. And I think that's because of social media, right? And the fact that, people are watching social media. And
so she's coming in with a both sides, okay? And when someone is trying to be an objective, neutral observer and not trying to take a side, I will win that person over based on the harm principle. I have many examples of how the left is causing harm intentionally due to an ideology that's been around since the 1850s. Okay, so whatever happens I always hate the idea that like both sides do something. And it's like, well, one side probably does it worse. It's very, whether intentional or not, it's very disingenuous.
Oh, Wendy's.
What?
Wendy's also donated to black racial causes in 2020.
Yeah, but not to Black Lives Matter. See, but this is how the money gets sent through many hands before it finds the hands that it's going to go into.
Yeah, correct.
Right now, even with the Palestinian protests, right? And that, it kind of takes on a similar form, similar chance. Yeah, because we're all on social media and, it's accessible. And it to me, I think it's this form of tribalism. I should share that I'm from Somalia, right? So I'll share that information because I know this type of tribalism.
Always good to have an international perspective when it comes to socialism. So something that's outside of the Western sphere, always valuable in this conversation if they have not been indoctrinated and corrupted by anti-capitalism.
Yeah, I mean, this lady's literally just sitting in her room hoping she doesn't get raped by pirates. So yeah, she's just a great person to talk to.
Goes on. And to Rhetoric's point, other people that lived in countries that were socialist and communist, we can still see those kind of elements. And that's why it disturbs people. But I do think that bottom line with America, there is still that capitalist spirit, but you can still have this kind of like social Marxism kind of going on.
Yeah, social Marxism, not just Marxism, but a manifestation of Marxism. Pretty good, right? I'm like, oh, I'm listening to that. I'm like, cook, girl. Absolutely, you fucking pig.
Right. And with Africa, we have so many different NGOs, nonprofits. They're not like to make seem like they're all evil and all these types of things is just a bit absurd. I think there's good people with good intentions in all these movements. But what I do want to say is Marxism was a reaction to the industrialization that happened. When you jump, and Russia did this, many other countries did this. When you jump from poverty straight to, this kind of communist Marxism, there's no rich to eat. it doesn't make sense to say eat the rich when it's like poverty. And obviously, it doesn't make sense in America. But the fact that it's like trend setting, where it goes to places where it's no longer grassroots. MIA spoke about this really interesting. She said about how with NGOs that will go to different places and they'll have all these initiatives about LGBTQ, these type of rights and so on, but there's no food, and the people don't have education.
We could have a completely reasonable conversation with this person about what's being discussed right now. You see how there's like depth to what she's saying? And she's not saying it. She's saying it in a neutral way, and she's like,
yeah.
Like, I could easily have an in-depth conversation with this person. But it's on Spaces, so she wants to chime in and say something and then hop out. And it's like, oh, I would much rather talk to that person about what's being discussed. I would seem less radical and have to do way less explaining and justification because she already understands what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she seems at least capable of having a conversation to where she's actually good faith, whereas like
she's
these
not
other
anti-communist, but she can acknowledge communism. Okay,
yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Like some people are just bad faith because they're purposely trying to be bad faith. Like the majority of the people in this space, like they're bad faith because it's impossible.
No, they're good faith. It
because
seems like they
retarded.
Actually believe it.
Yeah, they're so stupid. Like although this Babak guy, he's more familiar with theory and he's more tricksy and slippery. I don't trust him at all.
I would say that, yeah.
Education, like this does not make sense for this location. But sorry, to go back to America's point, to the point with America, what everyone was initially talking about, I would actually agree with rhetoric that there is a capitalist. I would agree with both you guys. There's a capitalist aspect, and there's also this social Marxism, kind of eat the rich type of thing going on. And to say that it isn't, I think it's very clear that it is, that there is this eat the rich type of movement. Now, whether it will work, because real coups involve militaries, and Bassem had a very good joke about that. But whether it'll work in terms of like overthrowing the government, no, I don't think so unless the military is involved. Anyways, I just want to share that.
I love how it comes to January 6th, where it doesn't matter if it succeeded. It was just the attempt that mattered. But communists get like fucking a game genie and unlimited tries and know all the cheat codes. And just get to try as many times as possible, unlimited fucking respawns. And we never apply that. But to the right, one soft try goes down in history, in the history books.
wait, what's the soft try?
The January 6th. I'm granting it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
I'm granting it. Yeah.
Thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening.
Yeah, no, thank you. But just to get like rhetorically, when you were or RD, right? I don't want to get your
my pronouns.
I think what you're missing is like a lot of the donations and stuff didn't go towards like, hey, we know who these people are. We're donating to them because we know who. It was more along the lines of, because when Black Lives Matter started, Black Lives Matter was talking about a plethora of things. That's why so many different people got involved in it. Like,
well, they were really using only when white cops killed black people, which they completely made it seem like it was happening much more than it was. So they really exploited the deaths of black people to further their political cause.
Well, I would say the things that got the most attention was obviously the thing that led to the most friction. But Black Lives Matter was also talking about, they were talking about the water in Flint, Michigan. They were also talking about a lot of the issues up here in Cleveland that had very little to do, like a lot to do with zoning. So when they first started out, there was like,
it's almost like Black Lives Matter has their own little intifada where we're not free until we're all free. Nobody is free until we're all free. That's weird. It's definitely not communist.
Yeah,
sure.
But this is what they did with the protests, where it's like, oh, so like half the protests in New York City are riots. Yeah, but in Maine, they mostly weren't. In New Hampshire, in Vermont, in Wyoming, there wasn't a lot of protests, and it's like, yeah, I know, but we're talking about like where it was a problem.
Exactly. And here's the thing, right? This is where you could come to the point of truth where it's like, yeah, the majority of the protests were peaceful, right? But then there were actual riots. Now, the riots are basically terrorism designed to terrify people into supporting a tyrannical communist movement. So if the media and the Democrats were actually good people, they could have actually waded into that and separated like the good peaceful protesters from the violent people and exposed the communist rot from within, and basically saved America. Like they could have actually done that, but instead they're just like, no, it's all peaceful. The people that are like, just don't pay attention to the violence, don't pay attention to it. Like they never get to the truth because they can't. It's impossible for them to.
And they just want to ignore it, and then people go to the right and they go, "Oh, you were a Nazi all along," and it's like, well, no, you people are unbearable. Like you can't. It's what Cenk has been talking about, yeah.
Everything they do worsens everything: race relations, men-female relations, gender, pay disparities between races. Everything that they say that they're trying to help actually just ends up making it worse.
They don't bring the bottom up; they bring the top and middle down. That's the only way we can have equality.
Correct.
Or equity.
Like a whole list of things that they had major issues with, and a lot of people, I promise you, if I give most people that list, they would agree with at least 80% of the issues that were shown on that list. But it slowly over time went more and more into, okay, what's the issue that's bringing the most people screaming at each other? Oh, if a cop does something.
It sounds like the most important thing is the end goal, regardless of the exploitation. They're like, okay, what's getting the most attention? It's like, well, what's their underlying foundational principle? Do they have any morals?
Exactly. He's so full of shit too, right? If you watch any of the press conferences with the BLM like protesters and leaders, if you watch any of them talk, what are they talking about? They're talking about the police brutality. That is what they're talking about.
And specifically against black people.
Against black people. But he's like, oh, but they were saying these other things, and people were only interested in these one things. That's because they were telling us that this is basically the main thing they're interested in, and here are some side things that we actually fucking care about.
It was just popular. It was just popular. Yeah, they, along with the media, made it popular. They worked hand in hand, above and below, to make it popular. Yeah, it organically spread around the world, right?
Basically, I'd almost say that I'm done with it. I don't know about you.
What about it right now makes you done with it?
I would say that this, adding on to the chaos on Twitter and like talking to people on Twitter and saying, oh, there's legitimate concerns to be had with immigration, but right now the post-liberal woke right is in charge of discourse. And I'm like, oh, okay, so because the post-liberal woke postmodernist right is in charge of discourse on the right, then we can't talk about immigration, but we can just lump everyone in with the racist people as racist. We can do that. And then with these guys here,
oh my God, Patrick, communism. Shut the fuck up. I get it. You're done with it. If that was inside my head, I'd be fucking done with it too, buddy. Have a good night.
I was about to go on a 69-minute rant. Good night. I'm gonna go.